The rain wasn't just falling. It was hammering the roof of Lisa's ancient Honda Civic, turning the windshield into a smear of distorted headlights and darkness. Route 17, usually a tedious artery, felt like a forgotten tunnel through a drowned world, just the drumming rain and the oppressive blackness pressing in from the pine forests lining the road. She fumbled for the hazard lights, their weak orange blink doing little against the storm. That's when the sickening thump 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 started beneath her, followed by the steering wheel shimmying violently. Not the friendly glow of a sedan, but the towering blinding orbs of a semi-truck. Its load ponderously, air brakes hissing, like a tired dragon, and pulled up behind her, dwarfing her tiny car. The sheer size of it, a wall of grimy chrome and rain-slicked metal, felt less like rescue and more like an eclipse. She fought the car onto the narrow, muddy shoulder, engine gasping its last breath. He wiped his hands on his raincoat, leaving dark smears. Won't hold a charge. You need a tow. Nasty night to be stranded. Names. Hank. He jerked a thumb towards his rig. Handel's big rig on the CB. He paused, rainwater dripping from the brim of his cap. Ain't nothing but woods and rain till then. Getting into that dark cab, alone with this silent giant. Every instinct screamed no, but the alternative, waiting alone on this desolate stretch for who knows what was worse. He looked back at his truck, its massive engine rumbling impatiently. I'm headed through, got an empty trailer. He didn't speak, just released the air brake with a sigh and pulled the massive rig back onto the slick highway. The wipers thumped rhythmically, barely clearing the deluge. Lisa stared straight ahead, hands clenched in her lap, acutely aware of his solid presence beside her. Can drop you at Benny's garage, 'bout 5 miles up the road. He's open all hours. Lisa grabbed her purse, locked her useless car, and scurried through the downpour to the passenger side. Climbing up felt like scaling a fortress wall. The cab smelled of stale coffee, cheap tobacco, and something else. Something metallic and faintly sweet, masked poorly by pine air fresheners. The seat was worn leather, cold and damp. How's Darlene doing? She warmed up yet? I got jumper cables. Pop your hood. Darlene's cold, he said into the mic, his voice dropping to a low growl. Real cold, quiet too, didn't appreciate the ride. Panic, cold and sharp, pricked her skin. No signal on her phone. The rhythmic thump 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 wasn't the rain anymore. It was coming from the back, from the trailer he'd said was empty. A slow, dragging thump, like something heavy wrapped in plastic, shifting with the motion of the truck. He was looking at her. His eyes in the dim dashboard light were flat, dark pits, empty, hungry, a burst of static, then a distorted, tinny voice. Breaker, breaker, big rig, you got your ears on. Hank's hand tightened on the heavy tool. The rain screamed against the windshield, and the dragging thump from the trailer behind them settled into a dreadful, rhythmic certainty. Then the lights appeared behind her. The driver's door opened high above. A figure climbed down, bulky in a dark raincoat, face shadowed by a pulled low baseball cap. He moved with a heavy, deliberate tread towards her window. The headlights carved a feeble path through the storm, leading nowhere but deeper into the dark. The thumping from the trailer grew louder, syncopated with the frantic hammering of Lisa's heart against her ribs. 5 miles had never felt so impossibly, terrifyingly far. Lisa rolled it down a crack, rain spitting inside. He reached down beside his seat, not for the gear shift, for something long and metallic that glinted dully in the dashboard lights. A tire thumper, or maybe something worse. Trouble, miss. His voice was gravelly, flat, not unkind, but devoid of warmth. Or maybe the alternator couldn't get a signal. Dead battery, I think, she stammered, forcing a smile. He nodded slowly, his gaze sweeping over her car, then lingering on her face just a second too long. There was no sympathy in his eyes, just a detached assessment. Lisa popped the hood, the rain instantly soaking the engine bay. He worked quickly, wordlessly, connecting the cables with thick, calloused hands. The Civic coughed, sputtered, but didn't catch. Relief warred with unease. He seemed efficient, too efficient, dead as ditch water, Hank stated, straightening up. Lisa's heart sank. How far to the next town? 30 miles. The offer hung in the air, thick with the smell of wet earth and diesel. Okay, she whispered, the word tasting like ash. Thank you. He grunted and walked back to his truck. Hank climbed in, slammed his door, and the cab felt instantly claustrophobic. Then the CB radio crackled to life. Hank picked up the mic, his voice unchanged. Go ahead, Rusty. Heard you picked up a stray back on 17, little silver Honda. Lisa froze. How did he know? Affirmative, Hank replied, his eyes fixed on the road, broken down, giving a lift. Yeah. She pretty. The voice on the other end held a leering electronic edge. Hank glanced at Lisa, a slow, humorless smile touching his lips. Doesn't matter. Got room. Always room in the trailer, huh, Hank? Rusty cackled, the sound distorted and ugly. Lisa's blood turned to ice. Darlene? Who was Darlene? Hank's smile vanished. His knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. The silence that followed was heavier than the rain. Lisa couldn't breathe. She looked at Hank. He wasn't looking at the road anymore. Always room for one more big rig, Rusty's voice hissed through the static, sounding impossibly close. Always room. Hank slowly placed the mic back on its hook. Lisa's hand flew to the door handle. Locked, the child safety lock engaged with a heavy, final click from Hank's side. Benny's garage, Hank said, his voice devoid of any inflection, his eyes never leaving hers. Just 5 miles. Outside, the forest rushed by, a solid wall of black. The CB crackled again, a burst of static that sounded like mocking laughter.